Today, abortion, the child in the womb. Hello to you, yes, you. Welcome to TRINICY, Conservative Christians on and off campus. My name is Monica Evans. This is rated PG. And the ideas and comments that we're going to share today are of my own and of my guest. I have a very special guest today, and I want to give you three things to consider and a call to action. Number one, feel free to submit your questions or comments in the comment box. And number two, this is going to go to IGTV, so be sure to like and to share. And number three, during the Q&A session, we'll go ahead and talk about your comments or questions. For some reason, if we're not able to mention them during the live session, please go to the IGTV and submit your comments or questions, and my guest or I will go ahead and take a look at that. We want to be sure that we connect with you and that we follow up with your comment or question. So once again, IGTV, and if for some reason we're not able to mention your comment or question, you can go ahead and type it up and we'll follow up with you. Hello, Tavi. Hello, photos. Hello to the ones that are connecting right now. And something to take into consideration is that 1 in 4 women in the United States will undergo abortion before the age of 45. So keep that in mind while we're having this conversation. And today, as I mentioned before, I have a special guest. Her name is Toni Mcfadden. She's a mama of 4. She's married, and she is also the founder of Relationship Matters. She has a really powerful testimony. She's a speaker. So without further ado, I will go ahead and actually add her to the conversation right now. So she is right here right now. So let me add her up. So it's waiting for her to connect. And it's awesome to be able to use the social media tool to connect with like-minded people. Toni, thank you very much for making time for us and for TRINICY and for this subject, that is so relevant to today's environment. So before I give you the platform, I want to propose these 2 questions. The first one is how a conservative Christian student can bring life to the pro-life cause on secular campuses or on secular conversations, and how parents of junior high, high school, college students, or young adults talk about this subject with truth and love. So the podium is yours.
Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you so much for having me on and just being able to speak on a very important topic. I would like to do the second question first with the high school, college, young age. I think we're in a place right now in our society where we need to teach kids critical thinking to know why they believe what they believe. And so it's not enough just for your parents to say, this is why you wait until you have sex until you're married, or this is why we're pro-life. I think it's something that needs to be, they need to wrestle with that themselves, so they know why they know their why behind why they're doing what they're doing. So when others are challenging that, they know this is why I believe this is why I'm a believer. And that's a growth thing, definitely when you're in high school, you're still learning who you are, you're still but having, I think, a strong foundation really helps with that. But I think with our culture, it wants us to make decisions based on how we feel. Yes. You feel a certain way and you're just supposed to act rather than thinking things through and then acting. And I tell teenagers that all the time, and I use the scripture right from Matthew 7:20 about building on a house on sand or concrete. And I correlate it as when you think on what is true and make your actions based on truth, that is building a strong foundation, because right now you're in the building phase, middle school, high school, college, and a lot of them, when I ask them if they want to get married, they say yes. And I'm saying it starts now. How you treat relationships right now is going to determine the kind of person you are when you're standing at that altar. So it's that critical thinking, because they're being bombarded with this message that sex doesn't matter. You can have sex with whoever and it's not going to affect you. And I'm like, yes, it does affect you, because they're degrading the meaning of sex. And in the process, they're degrading you as well. So I think parents also have to have honest conversations and actually talk about sex and relationships with
Right.
their children, because if they're not doing it, then the culture is going to do that for them. And I don't know about you, but I would not want the culture teaching my children about relationships, especially because Planned Parenthood is at the forefront of that. Now, when it comes to being in college and trying to be a presence there when it comes to the pro-life movement, I think it also goes back to even knowing why you believe what you believe. Someone told me a long time ago that you need to write out all the objections, the things that people are not going to agree with you with, and practice those things so you know how to combat them. Because I think a lot of things, it's fear. Like, I mean, a lot of people can make you want to silence you, but expect backlash. Like, you're going to get
Right.
backlash.
Yeah.
And the truth is offensive when you don't want to walk out truth. And so I think also with college age, one of my kiddos just tried to come in.
No
With
worries.
college age, I think that there's power in numbers. So find like-minded people that you can get with that are going to help you. And, you know, kind of wrestle through all of these ideas. But standing up for life from womb to tomb is the most precious thing that you could do, because God created us in his image. Therefore, everyone has value. So, you know, like I said before, we are going to get backlash, but we're set apart for a reason. And we don't have to try to have the light of God. If we have him in us, it's already there. That's not something we have to drudge up or try to earn. It's there. And I think when we have a true intimate relationship with Jesus and we know him, he's going to provide what we need in those moments. But I also think we have to study. You have to understand, study abortion, study what they're doing. And God will, you know, provide what you need in those moments to, you know, if it's debating someone or it's a one-on-one conversation, you know, you have to know, again, going back.
Yes, I will totally agree with you. I know that right now probably it's glitching the connection, but we have today Toni Mcfadden, and she is the founder of Relationship Matters, and she's sharing with us right now about the topic of abortion and how is that we should start a conversation, and we understand that we're going against the culture, uh, but then we also need to go ahead and be prepared to defend and to teach our children to think for themselves instead of just feeding them or telling them, okay, you're a Christian, and they're like, okay, I'm a Christian, but then when you know that when the time comes, they don't even know why they are,
Yeah.
you know, a Christian, or why not. So thank you so much. I do agree with either we are going to go with what the culture says or we're going to go with what God says. And there is
Right.
no like in between, you know, because sometimes I think we may think like, okay, maybe I can be in the middle. But I don't think there is such thing. And then the other thing that you mentioned is like start those conversations, because I think sometimes it may be uncomfortable. But it's best to start the conversations at home. I often think like our houses are the mission field. That is the first place that we need to go ahead
Exactly.
and care for. And then is our neighborhood, and then is our community. because otherwise sometimes we focus so much so in the outside and we forget sometimes to tend at
Mm-hmm.
home.
Mm-hmm.
So about this subject of abortion and the child in the womb, Toni, sometimes I think people who may be struggling with that subject,
Mm-hmm.
they see Christians are like, no, I shouldn't talk to them because they are going to be like, they're not going to forgive me for having this thought. They're
Mm-hmm.
not going to they are no, they are going to look at me down like I'm not good anymore, especially if it is someone that has gone through that path. Um,
Yes.
because even right now, we may have someone that have gone through has had an abortion. Maybe we have someone that is considering an abortion,
Mm-hmm.
or we may have someone that maybe has a friend or a family member who either has gone through that or is thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So how is like as Christians can go ahead and have once again that conversation without being like, I don't know, like, how dare you do
Oh,
that?
yeah. Yeah.
So,
I often refer to the passage of the woman at the well,
mm-hmm,
when Jesus met her, because that wasn't the cultural norm for a man to even talk to a Samaritan. And she was coming at a day where she knew no one would be there on purpose. But he met her right where she was at. Can you hear me okay? Am I
yes, I
good?
can hear you.
Okay.
Perfect. Yes.
And it's like, it's amazing how God will meet people right where they are. And I think we're called to do that too. It's not about I'm right, because then you're not loving the person in front of you. If I truly understand the gospel, I understand that I didn't earn my way, and he did all of this for me to set me free because I was blind. And so that's kind of how I try as best as I can. I'm not perfect at it, but when I'm hearing someone, I want to be approachable enough where they can have those, wrestle with those kind of things with me. And because I know we haven't gotten to my story yet, but because I have experienced abortion, I know how to have compassion for those who may be questioning it or have had one in the past. And I've been that girl who thought Christians won't forgive me for this. I've
Mm-hmm.
been that. And so I think the church has to talk about it more, because I didn't know where they really stood, because a few of the churches I went to, they only talked about it on Sanctity of Human Life Sunday
Mm-hmm.
once a year. And so I think the church needs to be the church when it comes to abortion, because 4 out of 10 women are suffering in the church from an abortion that they won't talk about. So I think the church needs to be a voice, but with love and compassion, and saying truth in love, but not screaming at a girl or saying like, you're a baby murderer, or, you know, she doesn't, some of them know what they're doing, some of them do not, and they're just scared. And I think if we're coming from a place of they don't know the Lord, and I get to be a representation of him to them, that changes that how you present yourself to them.
Yes, for sure. And in fact, I think it's a good platform right now for you to share the powerful story and testimony that the Lord has given you. I think sometimes um, when we are going through the storm, it's like
Mm-hmm.
we cannot even believe, or like, because the pain is so tangible, and the
Mm-hmm.
shame too,
Right.
you go through all that process, but then when you have gone through all that and you look back, it's like, oh my gosh, I
Mm-hmm.
see what a great redeemer, and I see what a gracious father we serve. So yes, if you could share your story, because I think in your particular case, when someone were to say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about because you have never experienced it, you
Mm-hmm.
can be like, no, actually, I can
Right.
talk not only from the theory perspective, but I
Mm-hmm.
can also talk because I have walked through through that way. So
Right.
can you share about
Yeah.
your story?
Yes, I would love to. So I was a senior in high school when I had my abortion. And just as I talked about earlier, I didn't have a really strong foundation. I was making a lot of decisions based on who was around me. And I tell my kids this now: who you surround yourself with tells a lot about who you are. So surround yourself with the right people. And I became sexually active at a very young age, and I was exposed to things I probably shouldn't have been exposed to. But my senior year in high school, I've been dating a guy off and on for 2 years, and he was a year ahead of me in school. So he was going off to college. And because when you don't have Christ as your foundation, you're grabbing for anything to give you worth, to give you identity. And he became my identity. And I thought that he was going to leave me because I'm in high school, he's in college, he'll be around all these other girls. So I was very insecure. And when I look back now, it was not the best relationship. So we had a sexual relationship, and I got pregnant right away. Never thought that I would even be in this situation. I think that's the issue too with a lot of teenagers. They think, oh, that's not going to happen to me, you know. But that's how you get pregnant. I mean,
Yeah.
so I only told my best friend, and she was like, you can't keep this baby. And my boyfriend said, you don't want to keep it, do you? Kind of insinuating that he didn't want me to keep it. And I was just scared. I didn't want to tell my parents or anything. So I was about 7 weeks, and I was given the RU486 pills, which is the chemical abortion, which right now they're trying to just send girls these pills through the mail, which through my story, you'll understand how devastating that is. So when I went to the abortion clinic, they do a very good job of convincing you they're for you and that this is normal. And I didn't understand fetal development. I didn't understand. I was so uneducated, and they feed off of the fact that you're not educated.
Mm-hmm.
At one point when they were giving me a sonogram, they had the screen faced away from me. And now I realized that was convenient for them because they don't want you to see what they see. And I asked to see the monitor, and the nurse turned it around, but very quickly said, see, it's nothing. It's the size of a pea. She didn't tell me my child's heart had already begun to beat. She didn't tell me that their DNA that is unique to them, that will never exist ever again, was already established. So those things they don't tell you about. And I'm supposed to trust them because they're the doctors, you know.
Yeah.
But in my soul, I did feel uneasy, and I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I didn't know how to stop it. Like I was very selfish too. I was just thinking, I'm about to graduate, I'm going to college, what else, you know, I can't let my parents find out. So the doctor gave me the pills. I took a first set there, and then he said 24 to 48 hours, take the second set. And this will expel the baby, but you'll be in the comfort of your home. That's kind of how they like to present it. Like it's a easy thing, which it was not. I basically could have probably died from the RU46 pills because they didn't work. I started hemorrhaging 2 months later. Even though I called them and told them that my pills didn't work, they said, this is normal. We gave you extra pills, so just take the extra ones and you should be fine. And I spotted a little bit, but because I was so uneducated and thought, oh, well, the nurse said it was just the size of a pea, maybe that's it.
Right.
2 months later, I was in the most excruciating pain. And not to be graphic, but this is the reality of what happened. I had blood clots probably the size of my fist, consistently leaving my body. I probably should have gone to the hospital, but I was too afraid to tell my parents. And I just remember being in a bathroom for hours at home, just honestly waiting to flush my dead baby down the toilet. And they're saying this is natural and this is normal. It is not normal. That was the most traumatic thing I ever went through, and went through it basically by myself. And my boyfriend broke up with me actually very soon after we went to the abortion clinic together. So those 2 months, he had not talked to me at all. And then I went through the whole hemorrhaging and expelling of the baby. And I basically walked through that alone and spiraled, you know,
Mm-hmm.
out of control after that. But my favorite phrase is, but God.
Mm-hmm.
I love that we have a God who redeems. I love that we have a God who is patient and kind. And even when we are running away from him and we are shaking our fist at him and we are his enemies, he continues to pursue our hearts. And I know even after being a believer for so long that I did not deserve his kindness, and I still don't. But about 3 years later, it was when he rescued my soul in college. I went to a campus crusade for Christ. That's some of the meetings they have on different college campuses, and realized that these students had something that I didn't have. And I was in a very difficult place of not knowing who I was. And I remember going back into my dorm room that night and just, I don't even remember the words that I said. It wasn't like a sinner's prayer, but it was just like a desperation of, I don't know how to change myself. And I'm giving myself to all these guys, hoping that somehow they're going to fulfill this deep desire. And it fails every single time. And I'm sick of living my life that way, but I have no idea how to change. So the Lord, I believe, rescued my soul that night, and I started surrounding myself with people who love Jesus and were teaching me about the word. I would wake up 6 o'clock in the morning before my 8 o'clock class, and if you're a college student, you know that's a sacrifice. So I'd wake up at 6 in the morning, and I would just be in the word and just wanting to know this Savior who saved my life and who I'd run away from for so long. And long story short, he begins to show me who I am. I decide I'm waiting until I'm married before I ever have sex again. And I started actually working for a crisis pregnancy center. And I would speak to kids on saving sex for marriage. I would share my story of regret, but I would also say, you know, I'm rebuilding my foundation now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm choosing to love my husband right now, even though I have no idea when he's coming into my life. I have no idea who he is, but I'm going to choose to love him by protecting myself and saving myself for him. And I'm hoping he's doing the same
Mm-hmm.
for me. My past is my past. I can't change it, but I can begin to rebuild myself. So really giving a picture of value. And
Mm-hmm.
when you know the one who created you values you, you value yourself in a different way as well. And so I was very grounded in why I was waiting. And then obviously being pro-life, that came a couple of years later. I would have said, like, obviously that abortion was wrong. But God had me work at this crisis pregnancy center to also give me healing. I went through post-abortion counseling and went through a Bible study called Forgiven and Set Free. And through that, God showed me that through a dream that I had a baby boy. I would have had a baby boy, which I know I'll see him in heaven one day when I get there. So that was very healing. I had a memorial service for him and was able to grieve his life. But God showed me that every time I share my story, he is no longer a statistic, that he is now, God is using his life to also minister to others, and not only to set me free, but to set other women free who have gone through this, that there is nothing that the Lord can't rescue us from or redeem us from. And so God is so amazing that you think like, oh, this is great, this is awesome, but he's like, I'm not done yet. So almost 10 years later, the same boy that went to that abortion clinic with me came back into my life to apologize to me for the way that he treated me.
Mm-hmm.
And when we decided to meet, neither of us had any idea we had both become Christians. He had become a Christian on his own journey, but he thought I was going to be married already. But God had put me on his heart to say, you know, what he did was wrong, to just leave me that way. And it was the first time sitting across from him that I saw that abortion does not just affect women, it affects men too.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was a lot easier for him to walk away from the relationship than to acknowledge that we ended the life of our child.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, about 4 months later, we got engaged. And now we've been married for 11 years. And we have 4 beautiful children, really 5. We will see the 5th one when we go to heaven. But we were able to honor our unborn baby at our wedding. We had a shadow box that a friend made for me that had the memorial service program that I had did years ago when I wanted to honor our child's life. And then one of those little willow tree dolls that holds holding a balloon that said hope.
Mm.
And then in the program, we just said at the end, we will be lighting an extra candle for our unborn baby. So just, God is amazing that he can redeem and make something that the enemy tried to use for evil and made something absolutely beautiful. And I'm so thankful now for the work that I do. I'm able to educate also Black women. I saw someone in the comments, right, that there in last year, 2019, more Black babies were aborted than born alive in New York City. And one of my goals is to expose the Black genocide when it comes to abortion. Abortion is the #1 killer in the Black community. And Planned Parenthood has a racist agenda and has had a racist agenda since its inception with their founder, Margaret Sanger. Before it was called Planned Parenthood, it was called the Birth Control League. Then she switched it to Planned Parenthood, but it was always to wipe out the Black community. And my goal, my hope is to educate the Black community that I'm done with this. We make up 13% of the population. If we get below 10%, it's going to be very difficult to come back from that. And I truly believe God wants to preserve our race. And we need to let women know, Black women, Black men know the agenda so that they don't fall into that trap of abortion.
Yes, I think what a testimony, that I think you were given, and I think each of us who claim Christ, he has given us a unique testimony, and I think there is power in sharing our journeys. Earlier in the conversation, you mentioned that you tell your children like they need to be careful of who they make friends with.
Yes.
And yeah, and for us Christians, we know that we need to fellowship with one another. Sometimes I think many may choose not to, but I will be very careful with choosing not to, because once again, I think we were created to be in fellowship.
Yeah.
And when you share your story, there is power in that, because it's God who is changing your heart and the desires of your heart, the way that you see life. And even what you were sharing about your husband, like, who can orchestrate something like that?
Oh God.
Like, there is no other explanation. Like, that is not coincidence, that is not random, and it's for his glory, first and foremost. And now you can go ahead and share that with your children, in your community, and right now, even like, when we're doing this Instagram live. So I'm very thankful for the Lord need us, and I'm 100% confident that he does that. And then the other question that I had, as you were talking about your experience, is in fact, someone mentioned like there are pills, or why not. I think it's also to educate our males. I have 2 boys, and I think sometimes, especially when we talk about abortion, of course it's the woman who carries the baby, but it takes 2 to conceive the baby. Right? It takes 2 to make that baby. And there is maybe a lot of like unwanted pregnancies, and that's why sometimes the woman may be in a position where they need to make a decision. But nowadays, I think there is this kind of waves of like, we women can do whatever we want to with our bodies. So even if the male wants to maybe keep the baby, the woman is like, no, I don't want to. So what would you say about that? Or do you have something to say about that?
Well, what abortion does is it takes the responsibility away from the male. Like he can do whatever. It's so, it's degrading. Like I can do whatever I want and I don't have to deal with the responsibility because it's your body, your choice. Real men protect. They don't just take, you know. And for the women, there's this false narrative of feminism being pushed that's breaking down men and saying we don't need them. No, God made male and female, that's it, two genders
Yeah.
for a reason. And there's beauty in it when we're walking in what God's called us to walk in. So women taking up this mantle that they don't need men and it's just their body, their choice. No, there's a separate human being that has their own DNA that is separate from you. Does not mean that just because they reside in you does not mean that you have ownership in that sense that you can just kill this child. And so there's just such a false narrative being pushed to try to normalize abortion. And it is not normal to kill off your offspring, your own flesh and blood. That is not normal. And this is not something new. I mean, you could see it all through the Bible as well. But Planned Parenthood does such a good job with their marketing and the way they word things, and they twist things to make it seem like it's not as bad as it really is. And then the woman actually goes through it and they have so many issues afterwards. More women are walking out feeling like, what did I just do? Than, oh, my body, my choice. This is great. I can do whatever. No girl should be walking in there happy about that.
Right.
I mean, there's something wrong if you're, you know, treating it that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I do appreciate that you mentioned, like, in fact, abortion would be a narrative to put the male in this case, like, okay, well, I can continue to do whatever I want to. And it's interesting also, I remember having long ago a coworker that was always worried about getting pregnant. And I was like, well, are you being active, sexually active? And she was like, yeah, but I use contraceptive. Is that a word? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, even you need to be careful because even with contraceptive, things can happen. And I have a great example of that. My husband is a 0.03 chance for it to happen. So he's a 0.03, like he happened, you know? So I am a firm believer that we need to go ahead and equip and share things as they are. Like, I believe there are tools. We have tools available. But then you also need to know that with each tool, there is always the possibility. So what if you end up conceiving a baby? If you are responsible enough to go and have intercourse, then you should be responsible enough to know what to do with that life. All right. And then the other thing that comes into mind right now as we're talking is, if a dog that is expecting baby, that is having puppies inside her belly, if someone were to take those puppies away, people will be mad.
I know.
Right?
Animal rights. I'm all about animal rights, but
when it's a baby, like, it's a bunch of cells. It's okay. Which I really don't comprehend that. And that breaks my heart, because in that we can see that there is blindness. There is really blindness.
Well, abortionists have even said there's life at conception.
Right.
I mean, abortionists have said that. So it's just a matter of choice. Like, you're choosing to deny what is true for your own selfish gain. You know, like, I need to go to college, or I need to do the same thing for myself. Like I said, I was scared, but I was also very selfish. I was only thinking about me. And that's why pro-life voices to rise up. And in those moments, I wish I would have had someone when I was walking in on the sidewalk saying, I'll take your baby, or you know, when I look back now and I see these warriors who are out there and trying to speak truth in that 11th hour is so powerful, because I mean, I think girls are wanting truth in that moment, but Planned Parenthood's not going to tell them that. They're not going to tell them you can do this, that you don't have to have an abortion, and you can choose to adopt, you can choose to, or, I mean, give the baby up for adoption, or you could choose to parent, and here are some resources. Like, they're not going to do that, because their whole goal is, I'm going to make money from killing your baby. Like, you know, that's why I respect crisis pregnancy centers. I think we need to be a little bit louder. I think we need to market better
Yeah.
because, you know, everyone, I mean, young girls automatically think Planned Parenthood where they're in a crisis, and we got to change that, that they're not wanting to run to them right away.
Yeah, that's true. I think we need to make a better job. I think earlier in the conversation you mentioned, like in the churches, we mentioned that like once a year. At home, I don't know how often parents are willing to talk about this subject.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, I think, a lot of work to do. And
Yes.
so let's start where we're at first at
Yeah.
home, and then in our communities, and let's be a good representative of
Mm-hmm.
who Christ is,
Amen.
with the things that he has given us. Because I think that is such a huge responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you have anything else to add, or we can go ahead and if you're viewing right now and you have questions, feel free to use the comment box. I saw some comments,
Mm-hmm.
like I have so there is here Enderitu, and he says he's from Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, from Kenya. and
Hi.
and there is Planned Parenthood Global. I didn't know that, and he's pushing some lawmakers to. Oh, I lost his. Oh, here. Some lawmakers to pass an abortion on demand bill. So this is a global
Oh
situation.
yeah.
It's
This
not
is
only in
beautiful.
the United States.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes I'm ignorant of stuff because I don't follow so much of the news. So when
Yeah.
I read
Yeah.
comments like this, it's like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
only
I mean,
like.
I'm not surprised by that, but I also know there are some strong pro-life voices there too. So,
Yes, then we have Junie Maga. Hi, Junie Maga, and she says she was told that many liberal college pass out the pill to young women easily.
well, I know that right now through telehealth, because of like COVID and everything, that they're trying to send the RU46 pills through the mail,
Wow.
young girls.
Yeah. So as a mom, like if let's say your daughter will come to saying like, okay, I am like, how do you prepare your
Mm-hmm.
child and then teenager
Mm-hmm.
to have this conversation? So let's say, you know, they claim Christ, and then but
Mm-hmm.
somehow they end up going the other way, and they end up having like an unplanned pregnancy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how would you walk through those waters?
Well, my kids are pretty young still.
Right.
But my goal also is to have an ongoing conversation with them all the time, so they know that they can come to me with anything and
Mm-hmm.
not go to their friends. But my husband and I have already gotten this, we already have this planned, that at the right age, we are going to tell them that obviously we are going to be instilling that they wait until they're married and have them understand why. But if something were to happen where they do get pregnant, they need to hear from us personally that no matter what, we're here for you, and you do not need to go and abort the baby because you think we're going to be mad at you or we're going to be upset. Like, we will get through it. Trials come, things happen. Our love for you is not going to change. We will walk with you through it. And that's something, the reason I'm so adamant about that is because with my parents, they were so devastated that I didn't feel comfortable to come to them in my crisis. Like, they were so hurt by the fact that I had to keep that I felt like I had to keep that from them. So I think there's power in, as parents, is saying that, not because I want them to go out and do this, but I just want them to know, like, God doesn't love us because we're perfect. Like we
Mm-hmm.
make mistakes. Like that's why we need him in the first place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, God forbid that happens. Please, oh, sorry, I got a phone call came
Oh,
in.
no worries.
Please come to us, and we will walk with you through that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Like we share the same
Okay.
mindset. Yeah, I tell my boys too. Well, I only have boys, but I always tell our boys, my husband and I, you can talk to us about anything. Like,
Yep.
don't worry. You can tell us anything.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you are struggling with something, let us know because then we can pray for you. We
Right.
can guide you. If it is hidden, it's very, very dangerous. And if and in our case, because we have males with the situation regarding or with the subject of sex, we always tell them there is a lot of responsibility. The fact that you're a male doesn't mean that you're exempt
Right.
from the responsibility. So you need to think really, really careful about how you're going to care after a woman. So
Right.
be thoughtful about that. So hopefully they're listening. So someone asked, can you comment on New York Planned Parenthood headquarters removing Margaret Sanger's name from the building? What are they trying to hide?
I think, well, it's not like the statue is going to like end abortion, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's a good step, but in New York City 300 employees came out saying that their boss was racist. Like this is coming from Planned Parenthood. And so I think they're trying to kind of get ahead of stuff too, like finally denounce that she had a racist agenda when they've been denying it for years, and they've been giving out awards in her name. I mean, Hillary Clinton got the award in 2009 and said she respected Margaret Sanger in her work. So I just think like now they can't hide it anymore. And a lot of people are really educated on this and know the racist agenda. If you ever want to see the bigger picture, there is a documentary. It's long, but it's really good. It's called Mahafa 21, MAFFA, I think. I'll put it in the comments.
Yes.
21. And it starts with showing you the history of how Planned Parenthood came to be and the racist agenda with that. So, I mean, I'm all for her statue being taken away because, I mean, she led the Black genocide of what we're dealing with today. So.
Okay, yes, if you can share that in the comment section.
Yeah.
And that was Retief, I believe. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And says thank you for answering the question. So, Toni, thank you so much for this conversation. Is there some closing remarks that you have for us?
I'm sorry, I was writing in the
comments. I said, do you have some closing remarks for us?
Yes, I would say for those of you on campus and you are a believer, surround yourself with people who are going to push you closer towards Christ, and do not let fear silence you. It is so easy to be on a secular campus and feel outnumbered, but the power of God is strong, and it is strong in each of us, and it's going to his glory being revealed is going to look different in everyone, but be confident in who Christ made you to be. Study. If you want to speak out on pro-life issues, study it so that you're confident when you have to present those things, and don't back down. Do not let fear paralyze you.
Yes, I think that's a good reminder. And actually, we have a question that this is what I would like you to propose to you, Toni. Maybe we can do a second session because there are things like sometimes, especially in today's culture, there are some questions. For example, what about but if someone violates someone, or if there is rape, like should abortion be okay? What if like it puts the mom in danger? Will that be okay? And so maybe we can go ahead and dig deeper into part two, into that conversation when so maybe we can have a part 2 conversation with you. And then last but not least, I want to read this comment. It says, abortion is rephrased as a woman's right to choose and women's sexual health issue. So I think that is an important comment. So thank you for the reminder, Toni. Thank you for that, from the reminder from the one who typed that comment. And I want to remind the viewers right now that we're going to put this into IGTV so you can check it out. The comments that you are typing right now, they're going to disappear. So go to the IGTV, put your comments, put your questions, and we will be glad to respond to that, to your comments or questions. We're going to be sure to connect with you and to acknowledge you. And I want to close with this. If you're someone whose abortion is a part of your story, meaning maybe you have a family member that went through that or a friend, if you're someone that is considering abortion, or if you're someone that has had an abortion, there is hope. I think Toni is a good representative of the change that God can do in someone's life. There are options available other than kill the baby that is inside. And if you went through that, there is hope. And we have a mighty Savior, a mighty God who is fast to forgive and he is slow to anger. So I want to leave that with that. And thank you so much for connecting with us today. Thank you, Toni, and I'll connect with you so we can have a part 2. And may the Lord be with you, and may us all who claim Christ be good representative of who he is in the way that we talk and in the way that we go about living life.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
See you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.